So everyone's been telling you to follow your passion, right? But what if that's actually been what's holding you back? Just follow your passion. It sounds empowering, right? Liberating even, until you try and actually do it and find yourself more lost than before. Now, after escaping a 20-year corporate law career and then 10 years of coaching busy executives how they can afford to live purposeful lives, I found that pursuing your passion isn't the answer. See, passion without purpose is directionless. Right, so pursuing your passion is a bit like chasing your tail. It's confusing and it leads absolutely nowhere. Now today, I'll share the simple fix. 3 steps you can apply right now to build lasting fulfillment right where you are. Mastery not required, of course. So if you're trying to find your passion, stop. Right, you don't find passion, you discover purpose and passion follows. Now the question, what am I passionate about, keeps you inward focused on your feelings that change with seasons, successes, and stress. Now back in my corporate law days, some days I felt passionate about closing a major deal. Other days I felt passionate about getting home before my family went to bed. It was the same with hobbies, right? I might be passionate about golf one weekend and then passionately breaking my clubs over lost hole the next, right? Swearing blind I'll never golf again and maybe take up beer brewing as a hobby. See, passion, I discovered, is a terrible compass because it spins with your mood. Purpose, on the other hand, connects you to something beyond yourself. It's about what you're meant to give, not what you want to get. It's about stewardship of the gifts, resources, and influence that you've been entrusted with. Right? It's passion directed at people, if you will. Now, without this shift, passion becomes all about performance. Right? You end up chasing excitement instead of fulfillment, constantly seeking the next dopamine hit from achievement while missing the deeper satisfaction that comes from meaningful contribution. Now, instead, start seeing passion as a byproduct of purpose, not the starting point. Now, remember how as a young lawyer, I felt incredibly blessed to be in a position of influence over large transactions that involved more money than I ever dared to imagine. I was passionate about the deals, about the bragging rights, the possible promotions it might bring. But 20 years later, when I was sitting in boardrooms making decisions that affected thousands of employees and millions in investor capital, what was foremost on my mind wasn't passion about the deal. It wasn't even the legal frameworks or regulatory compliance. But I was deeply purposeful about using my position to protect people's livelihoods and dreams. See, purpose reveals itself through service and stewardship. It reveals itself when you apply your unique combination of skills, experience, and resources to meet real-world needs. It's less about what makes your heart race and more about what makes your heart rest. Knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, serving the people you're supposed to serve. See, that's where you'll find true fulfillment. And starting's not that hard, right? In fact, there are 3 steps you can take today. First, ask yourself a better question. Instead of what do I love, ask where can my strengths make the most meaningful difference? When I finally asked myself this question, the answer wasn't corporate law. It was helping other executives find fulfillment without having to sacrifice their financial security. Next, serve someone. Right? Volunteer, mentor, or teach in areas where you have expertise. Right? Passion often awakens in the act of contribution. Some of my clearest moments of purpose came not from my day job, but from mentoring younger lawyers and watching them avoid the pitfalls I had fallen into. And finally, reflect. Right? Journal or pray about moments you've felt most alive while helping others. Right? That's where purpose speaks the loudest. For me, those moments weren't in the boardroom. They were in conversations with executives who felt as trapped as I once was, right? And helping them see a path forward. So what's one way you've chased passion only to feel like it let you down? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're ready to stop chasing passion and start building lasting fulfillment and wealth without sacrificing financial stability? Check out my 4-day predictable income plan. It's linked below. Now, you might be thinking, I've got to quit my job to find purpose. But actually, most folks don't need to resign. Not yet, at least. And this step is all about redeeming what you've already built and making it work for you. Now, it's now or never sounds bold, right? And a lot of gurus will tell you to burn the bridges and that your success is dependent on you knowing there's no way back. But walking away too soon is the best way to turn your calling into like complete chaos. Okay, purpose rarely asks you to abandon your foundation. It asks you to transform it. Now, rash exits create pressure, right? And that turns what could have been a strategic transition into financial desperation. And that rarely leads to purposeful decisions. I almost made this mistake many times myself, right? There were nights where I wanted to walk away from everything, right? Convinced that my corporate success was somehow incompatible with a meaningful life. Now, instead of striving for a new career right now, what if you could start looking at the same life through a new lens? Right? The lens of redeeming your work and not resigning from it. Now, what if you could align your current work with your values, influence, and impact without needing a resignation letter as your first step? Now, during my final years in corporate law, I began viewing my role differently. Right? Instead of being a legal advisor, corny as it may sound, I started to see myself as a steward of justice and integrity. Now, instead of just managing deals, I was protecting dreams and livelihoods. Right? The work didn't change, but my relationship with it transformed completely. And that gave me the clarity and peace to build what came next. And there are 3 simple steps you can take today to start making this shift in your life. First, audit your alignment, right? Write down your top 3 daily activities at work. Then ask, do these reflect my values or just my title? And if there's a gap, that's not necessarily a reason to quit, but take it as a huge clue about where to focus your energy differently. Next, find one redemptive project, right? Use your current position to serve a cause or initiative that reflects your purpose. Now, in my case, I began mentoring younger professionals and advocating more for ethically and socially conscious business practices within my organization. Now, these weren't separate from my job. They were expressions of purpose within my job. And finally, create some space for yourself before your big escape. Right? Build one small purpose-led income stream before making a major career shift. And this was crucial for me. I built a simple online business and was fully operational before I even considered leaving corporate life. And it gave me both proof of concept and reduced stress. Now, even so, I believe on hindsight that I could have waited until I was generating income consistently before I left gainful employment. At the end of the day, peace leads to wise decisions. Now, if you're feeling stuck and don't want to burn any bridges without income, my free 4-day predictable income plan will help you get started generating purpose-led income while you redeem your current work and prepare you financially with wealth and fulfillment for life after corporate. Links in the description below. Now, finally, even if your passion feels gone, it's probably just buried under a ton of pressure. And this step is all about how to revive that spark without burning out. See, when everything's about performance, joy fades, right? Metrics replace meaning, and I've lived that, right? Late nights in a conference room, working on deals that create jobs and returns, and yet feeling nothing, right? Not excitement, not satisfaction, just numbness. And this doesn't only happen in corporate life, right? It can happen if you turn your passion into a paycheck. And that's why I often coach my clients not to start a passion business. Now, when your livelihood depends on your hobby, pressure just hijacks the joy. Right? What you once loved will start becoming all about numbers and no longer about joy or meaning. What once energized you and fired you up becomes just another painful task. Now, restoring passion isn't just about finding something new to get excited about. It's about restoring the connection between what you do and why you do it. It's about reconnecting with gratitude, with growth, and with grace. And these are the foundations that reignite genuine drive from the inside out. Now, we need to acknowledge that we haven't lost our capacity for passion. It's just that we've been operating in survival mode for so long that we've forgotten what it feels like to thrive. Now, the good news, that capacity, that's still there, just waiting to be reawakened by purpose. And there are 3 simple steps that you can take right now. Right, first, revisit your why. Write down one sentence about why you started this career or business in the first place. Then ask yourself, have I been serving that or just surviving it? When I did this exercise, I remembered that I originally chosen law because I was somewhat idealistic and I wanted to protect the underdogs, right, from the high and mighty and ensure fairness. Now, somewhere along the way, I started protecting profits instead of people. Now, next, schedule a renewal, not an escape. Now, block 1 hour at least weekly, if not daily, for reflection or prayer or some quiet contemplation. Right? Clarity often comes when you stop striving and start listening. At my lowest point in my career, I started waking up an hour earlier every morning. No phone or agenda, just 30 minutes to sit and pray, and then 30 minutes to stretch and do some body weight exercises. Now, that quiet time became the birthplace of my transition strategy. Now, finally, celebrate small alignment wins. Each time you act from purpose rather than pressure, note it. When I began making decisions based on my values rather than performance matrix, I started feeling alive again. Now, the work didn't become easier, right? In fact, it often became harder because there was more to consider. And the additional considerations were not always appreciated by the others. But what changed was the relationship with my work, and that made all the difference. Now, have you ever felt burned out or numb even when things looked good on paper? Let me know in the comments if you've been there. And if you want a step-by-step plan to start building income with purpose, aligning with your values and strengths instead of needing to master a bunch of different skills, then grab my free 4-day predictable income plan at start.purposetree.com/workshop. It's on screen now on the show notes below. So remember, my friend, you don't need to find or follow your passion. You need to be aligned with purpose, the reason you were created, equipped, and positioned right where you are. Now, the turning point in my own journey came through a conversation with my daughter. She asked me why I worked so much if it didn't make me happy, and I realized I was living the very opposite of what I wanted to teach her, right? That success meant sacrificing joy, that security required surrendering meaning. And that conversation changed everything. Right? Within months, I began the transition that led me to leave corporate life and build multiple purpose-led income streams. But the real transformation wasn't in what I did for work. It was in understanding that my work, whatever it was, needed to be an expression of who I was created to be. You see, when purpose leads, everything changes, right? Passion becomes sustainable because it's rooted in something deeper than feelings, right? Productivity becomes peaceful because you're working with the grain of your design, not against it. And success becomes meaningful because it's measured not just by what you accumulate, but what you contribute. And that's what I now teach through my Purpose Tree methodology, right? How to align your unique gifts and resources with meaningful impact, creating both purpose and prosperity without having to choose between them. And if this message hit home, I want to hear your first step towards purpose in the comments. And don't forget to grab the free 4-day predictable income plan to start building your purpose-led income today. So start small today, my friend. Align one part of your work or wealth with your purpose and ask yourself, how can I use what I have, my skills, my influence, my resources, my platform, to serve something bigger than myself? That's how you stop chasing fulfillment and start living it. And as you do that, there's 5 things you should avoid. Because a lot of smart people struggle to build enough wealth to leave their careers, and that's because they keep making these same 5 mistakes, which you can learn to avoid in the video on screen now.